Hello everyone, and welcome to Dutch Greybeard. Every now and then, another booktuber tags me to do a list of questions. I'm always honored when someone does that, but at the same time, I don't always feel I have anything to say about the topic someone is tagging me on, in, with. A couple of days ago, my good friend Nev from Nev's Book Channel tagged me. This time, I instantly wanted to participate. It is about finding out your top 10 fantasy series you need to read on the basis of the latest Reddit list of fantasy top novels. Nev explains the concept behind this top 10 much better than I can.
It's based on the fantasy subreddit. Most of you will probably know this, but every year the fantasy subreddit rFantasy has a poll for the top novels and book series in the fantasy and sci-fi genre. So I'm basing my top 10 list off this list. I've gone down this marking off the ones that I have read or at least started until I have 10 which I have not read at all.
Thankfully, Nev and a friend of his have made things very easy. They created this website where you can simply tick the boxes of the series you have read, and once you're left with 10 unread series, the job is done. I will link this website down below because it is a really fun exercise. Alright, let's start with all the series I have read or have started reading. If I have made a video on the books mentioned, you can find a link to that video in the description down below. Not surprisingly, Tolkien's Middle-earth universe is at number 1. I have read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings in a Dutch edition when I was 18 years of age, so quite some time ago. These books I read twice. I also started reading The Silmarillion, also in Dutch, but I didn't get along with the 400 pages in this extreme small print. After struggling through about 50 pages, I gave it up. Later on, I bought the English edition of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, which I read twice as well. And as we speak, I am listening to the final 100 pages or so in The Return of the King in the amazing narration of Andy Serkis. I will not continue with all the appendices and other books published in this universe. First Law by Joe Abercrombie is second according to the Reddit list. I read these books in the beginning of this year and made 2 videos about this reading experience. Although I enjoyed them, I am most certainly not a fan. In the foreseeable future, I won't continue with Abercrombie's other works in his First Law world. The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson holds spot number 4. I had this crazy plan to read one of these huge books each month, starting in August of 2024, so that I would be completely ready when book number 5, Wind and Truth, was published in December. That turned out to be a little bit too ambitious. I finished Oathbringer, the 3rd book, halfway through November and decided to take a break from the series. But I absolutely love it and will no doubt finish reading this first arc this year with Rhythm of War and the final book so far, Wind and Truth. From Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings, I have only read the first sub-series so far, the Farseer Trilogy. I loved these books, and it is weird that it has taken me so long to continue with the next one, The Lifeship Traders. As a matter of fact, I picked up the first book, Ship of Magic, just last week, but because there is so much going on in my personal life, all good things, I find that I cannot give it the concentration it needs and deserves. But, as you can see behind me, or I don't know if you can, yes, I think you can, over there is Robin Hobb, and over there, all of that is Robin Hobb. So I have the complete Realm of the Elderling series ready to go. So to be continued without any doubt. The Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan, will always remain the series that drew me back into fantasy. I read the books in the chronological order of the story, so I began with New Spring, which I read in January of 2023, and I finished reading the final book in the series, A Memory of Light, at the end of May of 2024. So that's 15 books with an average page count of almost 800 per book in 17 months. Even though I definitely experienced the infamous slog, this series will always be very special to me. My relationship with Discworld is a bit weird, to be honest. In March of 2023, I eagerly picked up God's Gods, which was recommended as one of the best starting points in this huge series. Like with other books or series, the real thing didn't live up to its high expectations. It took me almost a year to summon up the courage to read another Pratchett, and I read The We Free Men, the first book in the Tiffany Aching series. I loved it. Up until today, I have read 10 of the 41 titles in the series, and overall I like them. That's truly the best I can say. Some are great, like Mort, and some are a complete miss for me, like Equal Rights. I will most certainly continue reading this series. On number 8 in the Reddit list is Mistborn Era 1, or Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I have read the first era, and it was my first acquaintance with Brandon Sanderson. Great trilogy, great story, good writing, and I was sold on the Cosmere. I think that I will start reading the second era Mistborn books this year. At least I'm very much looking forward to that experience. Red Rising by Pierce Brown was a reading experience with two faces for me. I read all 1,350 pages of the first 3 books within 2 weeks in June of 2024. So I flew through them and absolutely enjoyed them. But I also had a couple of problems with the books. This I try to explain in my video. I have 2 books of the second trilogy ready, and I will certainly read those. Depending on how much I like them, I may or may not buy Lightbringer as well, the final book in the series. I was a little bit in doubt if I was going to mark the Harry Potter series as read or not. The thing is, I only read the first book in the series back in 2002 and never got back to reading more. I believe I did watch all the movies, but somehow this series never got on the top of my focus. I liked it, and also the movies were entertaining, but that's about all I have to say about it, really. But I did read a Harry Potter book. Of the next series, I also read only one book, The Lies of Locke Lamora, which I absolutely loved. Great book. And the next 2, published in the series, are impatiently waiting on my shelves to be picked up. In my reading plans for this year, I have included Red Seas Under Red Skies. And if I enjoy that one as much as I enjoyed the first novel, I may continue right away with The Republic of Thieves. Piranesi by Susanna Clarke holds place 14 in the Reddit list. I read it in May of 2024, and it was my book of that year. What more can I say about it other than refer you to the video I made about this special book? Dune by Frank Herbert is also one of those series that I read ages ago. In 1984 and 85, I read the first 5 books in the series, all in a Dutch translation. I don't even own a copy anymore, and I can only remember the gist of the story. And I remember really enjoying the books, but that's about it. At this point, there is no incentive to reread the series in English. There is too much other fantasy I want to get to first. Another oldie for me is Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. I read the first 3 books in the series in my earlier years, also in a Dutch translation, this one, and I loved them. Recently, I reread them in English in this beautiful edition and equally enjoyed them. Very soon I will continue with the Earthsea books the author later wrote, starting with Tihanu. Next on spot number 18 is The Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. I have bombarded this channel with no less than 4 videos about these 2 books, so I will keep it very brief here. Superb, magnificent, best fantasy ever. Then, the final series on the Reddit list I have read is another one of my all-time favorites, The Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I read all 3 books back to back in September and October of 2023. I can see why this series is not for everyone, but for me it was a complete new experience in an extremely bleak world, but with masterful writing and storytelling. Then we finally get to the 10 fantasy series I should read according to the Reddit list. First is The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. This 9-book series has received a lot of praise on BookTube, but somehow it doesn't really appeal to me. I've watched 1 or 2 episodes of the TV show and it left me uninterested. Don't know why really. Perhaps it is because this is the so manyth story about a violent world with power-hungry people. Who knows, I might change my mind in the future, but for now I will shove this one aside. I am, however, interested in reading the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rucchio, number 9 on my top 10 fantasy series I should read, mainly because of the praise about his writing, something I'm always interested in. This is also growing into a very large series, but I will certainly start with this one, not this year, but perhaps in 2026. The Wandering Inn by Pirate Abba on number 8 is another one of those series that doesn't really interest me. Despite the raving reviews some booktubers give this series, it is too immense, and I've never heard anything about the writing itself. Another thing is that I have trouble accepting that someone this prolific can maintain high quality standards. It seems to be all about quantity. That's a prejudice, I'll admit right away, but there is too much other fantasy I want to catch up with first. On number 7 is Martha Wells' Murderbot Diaries. Perhaps these are great books, but the title completely puts me off. A murdering robot. Why would I want to read about that? I do have another book by this author on my wish list, namely Wheels of the Infinitive. Now that's a title I can fully get on board with. The premise is also intriguing and it is a standalone. But Murderbot? Sorry, I'll pass. Number 6 is Cradle by Will White. Yeah, this is another series that doesn't interest me, to be honest. The whole idea of reading a story where characters have to level up to become stronger seems totally uninteresting to me. I'd rather read other fantasy. The next one on the list is The Locked Tomb by Tamsin Muir. I had to look this one up. About necromancers? That's not a direct yes for me. It is 19th on the Reddit list, so it is popular. If there is nothing else on my TBR, perhaps, like that's ever going to happen. So far, of the 6 series recommended to me, only 1 is actually on my TBR. I wonder if I really belong to the Reddit audience. Although, seeing all the series that I have read or started reading, I fit right in. Let's continue. Number 4 is Dungeon Crawler Carl, the insanely popular series by Matt Dinneman. Again, despite the widespread enthusiasm for these books all over YouTube, I'm not really interested. The leveling up part in a story is not really what I'm looking for. However, Recently I found that I had some credits left on my Audible account, and I purchased the audio version of the first 4 books in the series. So I will certainly give these a try on audio, whenever I get around to it. The next, number 3, has been on my TBR for a long time already. I'm talking about The Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. I still haven't purchased the books, but I will, and I will get around to reading them, probably 2026. Heard only good things about the series, and I want to be part of it. The number 2 of my top 10 fantasy series I should read ASAP is Malazan, Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. It holds 6th place on the Reddit list. Yes! As a matter of fact, I bought all 10 books in the main series in February of 2023, just 1 month after I was converted to fantasy. So it feels like I've been wanting to read these books for forever. There's only a couple of barriers holding me back. First of all, I'd preferably read one huge series at a time. Obviously, The Wheel of Time kept me occupied for some time, and at the moment I want to finish the first arc of the Stormlight Archive. Second, the series is daunting, to say the least. Not just because of its length, but also because of its complexity. Nevertheless, I will start reading The Gardens of the Moon as soon as I've completed Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. And I am so hoping that I will like it. I mean, many booktubers have this series as their favorite fantasy series of all time. We will see. The number 1 fantasy series I need to read, and I couldn't agree more, is A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. I bought the 5 books that are published so far, even before the Malazan books. So, yes, I want to start reading this super popular and widely praised series. I might just give this one priority over Malazan, but you never know with me. Me and TBRs are a very unpredictable mix. My overall score, whatever that means, is 25 points. I don't know if that's good, mediocre, or bad. Perhaps, Nav, you can explain that in the comment section. Thanks. So, there you have it. The 10 fantasy series I should read as recommended by Reddit. No surprises for me. Next to all the series I want to continue reading, there are many series I want to start very soon. Of this list of 10, there are 5 I am actually going to read or listen to. So, if I may be so bold as to replace the 5 misses for me on this list with 5 of my own choice, I would choose the following. The Wars of Light and Shadow by Jenny Wirtz. This is another huge series that I will be reading eventually. I have them all except for the final installment. I want to read Jenny Wirtz's works in their publication order, so I have at least 5 books to read before getting to this series. And there are other huge series that I will be reading first. But there will come a day that I will pick up The Curse of the Mistwraith, and so on. The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. These books I purchased not so long ago, but they have been on my TBR from the beginning of my journey into fantasy. Everything I have read about this series speaks to my imagination. I am truly hoping that I will make a start with reading this one in 2025. Third on my own list is The Law Trilogy by James Islington. This is another one of those series that has been on my shelves for a long time. To my own surprise, I didn't even include them in my 2025 reading plans, but they are bound to be read anytime soon. The same thing goes for The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. Even though I have discovered that wars and battles are not particularly my favorite element within fantasy, I am still very much looking forward to reading these books. And then finally, I want to mention the Drenai series by David Gamble. I bought the first 6 books in the series in November of 2023, and they have been demanding my attention ever since. Thankfully, they are not very big books, so they can be easily squeezed in with my other reading plans. Of course, there are many other series I want to get to, but these 5 are probably on the top of that long list. This was a fun exercise, and I want to thank Nev for inviting me and for making it so easy with his special website. I can recommend all booktubers to do this as well. In fact, I will tag 4 of them myself. I tag Rabin of the channel Only the Best Fantasy Novels. I tag Tiffany of the channel Tiffany Russell. I tag Neda of the channel Basically Neda. And I tag Josh of the channel Red Fury Books. No obligations. If you like to do this exercise, please feel free. Thank you very much for watching this video. Until we meet again at Dutch Greybeard.